Throughout my life, I've had the opportunity to see varying situations from both sides of the fence. This is especially true when it comes to the jobs I've held. I've worked for smaller, locally owned and operated businesses all the way through to national retailers, banks, and even an international technology company. Throughout this time, I have become keenly aware of the dichotomy between customer relationships and the bottom line. In the smaller, privately held businesses, customer relationships reign king. Managing these relationships was key not only to the company's bottom line, but the very ability of the owners to put food on their families' tables. Customers were not viewed through a lens of getting the most out of them at any given moment, but as someone with whom the business must develop a working, mutually respectful relationship to ensure that that customer became a loyal customer. With the larger, publicly held companies, however, upper management and executives often spoke out of both sides of their mouth. They would quote the lyrics to the song of customer service, but they danced to the tune of shareholder interests and quarterly profits.
Oh God, give me the strength!
Before jumping right into things today, I want to make it clear that I do not have a problem with shareholders expecting a return on their investment. If I invest in anything, I expect a return on my investment that continues to grow. Of course, I tend to hold a long-term view on such matters, while most corporations do not. At the end of the day, quarterly profits are all that matters to a corporation. CEOs move from one corporation to another so quickly that they're only interested in their golden parachute. Such priorities often yield policies and practices that are downright hostile to the very customers that they rely upon for those profits.
Punk-ass bullshit!
This blinding corporate greed has not been lost on game publishers. I see this day in and day out as I play Grand Theft Auto Online. Now, I've been an avid fan of the GTA series for as long as it has been in existence. Grand Theft Auto 5 is, without a doubt, a masterpiece of a game. It smashed numerous records, received glowing critical and player reviews, and introduced a truly next-gen experience on old-gen hardware. The PC version of the game is absolutely brilliant. It's incredibly well optimized to run smoothly on a multitude of hardware. It includes dynamic control switching, and it's fairly bug-free. It even held a record by having over 300,000 players on Steam playing concurrently. That record was only recently stolen by Fallout 4. Yet corporate greed has tarnished this masterpiece. When Grand Theft Auto Online launched, the developers were quick to point out that all DLC for the title would be free, and they even promised that players would see additional single-player campaigns in addition to GTA Online DLC. The publishers of the game, Take-Two, quickly saw that they had a cash cow on their hands with GTA by means of shark cards. If you're not aware, shark cards allow you to purchase in-game currency in exchange for real-world money. They offer a significant discount as you spend more, with their most expensive bundle providing roughly 80,000 GTA dollars for every real dollar spent, while their least expensive bundle only provides a little over 33,000 GTA dollars for every real dollar spent. In a Rockstar Asked and Answered from December 2014, Rockstar defended the shark cards by saying their sales allow them to continue releasing DLC for free. Their defense went on to state that they follow this model, quote, because it was the only way that we could distribute DLC without dividing the player base each time we brought in a new content pack, which would destroy the online community by very quickly splitting players up. Thanks to shark cards, we have been able to give away every piece of DLC so far for free in order to keep the community whole and give people options as to whether they want to earn new content by playing the game, buy new content with shark cards, or simply don't get new content and still keep playing the game. End quote. This would all be well and good if the game did not constantly hit you over the head with offers to purchase shark cards. In-game, you have a bank balance and a cash balance. The latter can be deposited into your in-game bank balance. And it's a good idea to do so as well, because every time your character dies, they drop several $100s from the cash balance on hand. Yet, if you have no cash on hand for activities that do require cash, you're quickly given the option to purchase shark cards. On Xbox 360, I currently have nearly 27 million GTA dollars. Yet when I encounter something that requires cash, I'm only given an option to buy a shark card, not make a withdrawal from my bank account. Worse, if you accidentally press the wrong button at the shark card prompt, you're whisked out of the game and presented with a store screen of options to buy shark cards.
This is total bullshit!
Make no mistake, Take-Two is raking in money hand over fist with shark cards. In a December 2014 article, Inquisitor quoted sources that claimed digital revenue from Grand Theft Auto V topped over $35 million in one single month. This is from a game that broke the record for reaching $1 billion in sales in the first 3 days following its initial release alone. Shark cards continue to rake in tons of cash for Take-Two. If in-game prices were realistic, none of this would really be a problem. Shark cards give players a shortcut to getting funds they need to buy in-game assets without grinding through heists and missions. Since not everyone has the time to dedicate to such a grind fest, shark cards are a perfectly acceptable means of acquiring the GTA dollars to get what you want in-game. The problem, though, is that in-game prices are continually rising and have reached outrageous proportions. It has become clear that this so-called free DLC is just a means to get players to buy more shark cards. And the most recent DLC, Lowriders, puts the cost of a fully customized lowrider on par with a fully customized hypercar. I admit that GTA Online is far removed from reality, but their prices on earlier DLC were more fair and had a sense of balance. Now you're paying $500,000 just to make a car with mediocre performance bounce up and down a little bit. If you want the good hydraulics, you're paying another $250,000. Want a cute little plastic bobblehead for your dashboard in your lowrider? That'll be $10,000, please.
Damn!
Worse still, Rockstar's Asked and Answered gave the impression that players can easily choose between purchasing shark cards or simply playing GTA Online to gain the currency necessary to get in-game assets. If only this were true. Soon after GTA Online's release, Rockstar nerfed the payouts of many in-game activities when they saw that players were amassing wealth quickly. Jobs, missions, races, and everything else that once paid out generously saw drastic cuts.
Cocksucker!
Further, they completely removed the in-game stock trading, Bossack, because they realized that players were able to make too much money too quickly and they weren't buying shark cards. In fact, the Bossack was removed so quickly from GTA Online that many players argue that it was never even there in the first place. It was there, though, and it was an in-game stock market that was directly impacted by players' actions in GTA Online. Many players quickly recognized the in-game actions that could drive a stock's price up or down, resulting in players who were making millions. That threatened shark card sales, however, so the plug was pulled on the Bossack. I played GTA Online the day it launched thanks to a free 3-day pass to Xbox Live Gold that came with another game. Frustrated that Rockstar had to develop any methods to deal with in-game griefers, I retreated to the web browser on my in-game phone and began to study the Bossack. I made a few $100,000 GTA dollars in those 3 days. There was so little to do in GTA Online at that time, and it was so overrun with griefers that I didn't really see the point in buying any further Xbox Live Gold subscriptions, so I walked away. I kept up with the DLC for the game because it appeared in story mode as well. I don't know when Bossack was removed, but from what I gather perusing the interwebs, it was a pretty quick removal. When I returned to GTA Online in March of this year, I was shocked to see the Bossack removed. My dream of becoming an online billionaire was squashed, and I soon found myself purchasing a shark card just to buy a supercar and some engine upgrades. And that's a point I'll come back to later in this very long rant. The removal of the Bossack, the nerfed payouts, the ever-increasing in-game prices, it's all been a blatant and ugly cash grab from a franchise that has clearly been reassigned to the role of company cash cow. In my eyes, and the eyes of countless millions of other players, a beloved video game franchise has had its reputation irreparably tarnished by these greedy tactics. And make no mistake, Take-Two's behavior has been fueled entirely by corporate greed. Don't believe me? The same Inquisitor article that I mentioned earlier quotes a source from Take-Two that states, quote, GTA Online exceeded Take-Two expectations and was described as the single largest contributor to digitally delivered revenue in every quarter since its launch. End quote. Like every other greed-driven corporation, Take-Two's myopia only allows them to see how much GTA Online props up quarterly profits and fails to see how they are angering and alienating more and more players with each free DLC that gets released.
Fuck this crap!
This corporate greed has turned even uglier lately, resulting in outright corporate-driven intimidation methods that mirror mafia tactics that the GTA series has presented over the years. If you follow gaming news, then you will have no doubt seen articles over the past week reporting that developers of two multiplayer alternatives to GTA Online had so-called private investigators show up at their homes. One of these developers provided an account of this visit on Reddit, stating that two private investigators showed up at his house and handed him a phone. On the other end of that phone call was someone allegedly from Take-Two who began to demand that the developer cease development of their multiplayer mod and implied that he would face legal consequences if he didn't. At almost the exact same time, two other sets of so-called private investigators showed up at the homes of two other developers who have been working on another GTA Online alternative, and similar encounters ensued.
Fuck!
There are so many problems presented in this action by Take-Two that I almost don't know where to begin. But let's start with these multiplayer mods themselves. The first, called 5M, was being developed in a way that required a 5M player to have a legitimate, purchased copy of Grand Theft Auto V for PC. Pirated copies of the game flat out would not work. And what was the result of that? Rockstar banned the developers of this mod back in August as a direct result of their GTA Online alternative development. And when I say banned, I'm referring to the developers' Rockstar Social Club accounts. This means that any game the developer owned that requires a Rockstar Social Club account, Grand Theft Auto V included, could no longer even be played by that developer. And we're talking about legitimate copies of the game here. Take-Two defended their actions by claiming that the code for 5M would facilitate piracy, despite the clear fact that the developer had gone to great lengths to ensure that a pirated copy of the game would not work. The other GTA Online alternative, GTA Multiplayer, while not offering the same protections against privacy, was much anticipated. You can visit numerous gaming sites and Reddit to find hundreds, if not thousands of players that were looking forward to the release of this mod. Most were holding off on purchasing a copy of GTA 5 on PC until the mod was released. Take-Two's corporate greed has blinded them to how beneficial the modding community is to game developers and publishers. To be clear, I am not referring to the mods that allow players to cheat or otherwise manipulate a game that gives them an unfair advantage over fellow online players. These sorts of people should not even be allowed to be called modders. They are weak little people with absolutely no gaming skill that resort to script-kidding tools to teleport them through races in seconds, drop millions of dollars of in-game currency to their bank accounts, and be able to kill fellow players at the push of a button. They're little pussies who wouldn't know how to legitimately succeed in video games if their very lives depended upon it. But these are not the modders I'm referring to. I am referring to actual software developers, usually working in their spare time and releasing their mods at no cost to players, who are creating tools that enhance and add enjoyment to video games. If I hadn't ran my mouth long enough already, I'd point you towards scores of stories where games that were once flops became sales juggernauts because of a mod made by one of these developers. There are even more stories of games that continue to generate sales revenue for publishers for years, far beyond anything the original game developer could have hoped for, because the modding community has brought such amazing improvements to those games. Take-Two obviously cannot see this, though. Like all of the other corporations I mentioned at the outset, Take-Two can only see what is best for the next 3 months, how to get the most money into shareholders' pockets right now, and how they can pad their own financial portfolio by milking a game for quarterly profits. Their greed drives them to seek out the quick buck, forgetting that they are leaving millions of dollars on the table by failing to embrace a modding community that can help them bring revenue for years and years to come.
Twat!
And then we come to the next problem. In their short-sightedness, Take-Two failed to recognize that sending thugs to intimidate people developing GTA Online alternatives has actually resulted in lost sales revenue. I found pages of Reddit comments that indicated that people who weren't even interested in these mods, but who were planning on buying Grand Theft Auto 5 for PC, have canceled their plans to buy that or any future game released by Take-Two or developed by Rockstar. A single game only impacts the quarterly profits at the time of the sale, but the sale of shark cards is a constant revenue stream that Take-Two will clearly stop at nothing to protect. They failed to take the repercussions of their actions into account, however, and have completely alienated thousands of potential customers who are now not only going to never buy another Take-Two title, but who will also now never need to consider purchasing a shark card. There's no telling how many millions of dollars of potential revenue Take-Two has just flushed down the fucking toilet. Going hand in hand, Take-Two failed to understand that the type of player who was looking forward to these alternatives to GTA Online were most likely customers who would never consider buying shark cards in the first place. Gamers are growing weary of all the game publishers putting out games full of fee-to-pay and pay-to-win desperate cash grabs, and the gamers are starting to send a message by refusing to participate in that system. Players that were looking forward to these mods were more than willing to hand over the cash to buy the game, but were mostly people who have indicated that they would have never purchased a shark card, even if they had played GTA Online in addition to these alternatives that were in development. So while trying to protect an ongoing revenue stream they were never going to get in the first place, Take-Two has sacrificed sales revenue from players that have been pissed off through these corporate intimidation practices.
Ah, for fuck's sake!
And that brings me to my final point. Such behavior from a corporation is downright unacceptable and definitely crosses the line into clear harassment. If Take-Two really believed that their legal standing was so certain, they would have never sent a total of 6 goons to 3 homes to intimidate mod developers. Instead, they would have followed typical legal channels of having an attorney send cease and desist letters, followed by a lawsuit if the developers failed to comply. This is simply how things work in the corporate world when there's a clear violation of laws that protects intellectual property. But since Take-Two knows they have no legal standing, they've resorted to this harassing behavior. As I said before, it really is similar to something out of a mafia movie. Thugs are sent to the homes of people who are causing problems to intimidate them into submission. Threats get made if they don't comply. And while the players of Grand Theft Auto series understand that such things are not acceptable outside of movies and video games, it seems that Take-Two has spent so much time publishing games with such behavior that they now think it's perfectly fine to engage in tactics that are reprehensible and immoral. As I mentioned earlier, when I first started playing Grand Theft Auto Online, I purchased a couple of shark cards. I enjoyed racing in GTA Online, and I needed the ability to purchase the cars and upgrades that made me more competitive. This was long before I met my current friends and crew members who've helped me gain millions of GTA dollars in the game. Now that I'm playing more and more on PC, where my friends and crew members are mostly absent, I find myself again lacking in the in-game funds to purchase cars, upgrades, and other in-game assets. But you know what? Take-Two won't get a single fucking dime from me for a shark card. I'd rather grind through missions with nerfed payouts and put up with bug-laden heists than give Take-Two another dollar to boost their quarterly profits. I have become soured on anything affiliated with Take-Two. I already refuse to buy anything from EA because of all their microtransaction bullshit, and I'm seriously considering a similar attitude towards Take-Two releases. And this includes not only future Grand Theft Auto titles, but other series that I love, including Civilization, Midnight Club, Max Payne, BioShock, and even more. And I strongly urge you to consider passing on this game series in the future as well. Why? Because fuck Take-Two, that's why. Fuck them, and fuck their corporate greed that treats gamers who have been faithful to their series as just another source from which to milk a quick buck. Fuck Take-Two, fuck Take-Two, fuck Take-Two.